Mech's perspective. Pon was an exceptional woman, I think to myself, as I ride a stallion hound, slowly walking a few folk limbs behind the man she and I almost certainly made together, along the wide road that we would have avoided like a rotting beetleuterus this time last year. Every child she made, she brought out the absolute best in what the man had given her. Grieve is larger and stronger than I was as a younger man. Vieg is far cleverer than Loth ever was. It saddens me that neither of them, nor anyone else from when I was a youth, could still be here, that if I survive until Regen's been solved, I will forever be the oldest member of Mew, and all surrounding villages. But, along with the sadness, there is pride. I am proud of the people I see the folk becoming, and I'm glad they still have a use for an old fart like myself, even if I'm more than a little apprehensive about the use I've been given. Hey, Meg? The companion I ride with smiles over a muscular shoulder. You seen that really short Terran girl? Fran? I wouldn't try it, boy. I think she would probably break you, no matter how gentle she was, I chuckle. He waves a negative. No, not her. Olga. Brown hair, grey eyes. Unusual proportions for a Terran. Oh, I say, remembering the girl who stands more than a head shorter than the next shortest Terran, and goes everywhere with what looks like a light scowl on the face. She's attractive to you, is she? Yeah, he sways, grinning stupidly. She's dreamy. We puff. Well, I don't see it myself, but everyone likes what they like, don't they? You suggested it yet? Another negative. No, she's always with at least Anaz, the one-eyed one, talking about super clever things. The off-orders like privacy when they're propositioned and for everything that follows. I've not had the opportunity yet. Well, we shrug. It won't be too long before you're going to be travelling off the world on the same square boat as her. I'm sure you'll get the opportunity at some point on that journey, though I would urge caution. She may not be Fran, but she's still a third of a folk taller than you, and looks like she might be 3 times as heavy. Even she could easily hurt you if you piss her off, and she doesn't give the impression of being particularly patient or forgiving. He leans back from where he sits atop the plodding stallion hound, and bares all fangs in a grin, saying, Selling points, Mech. Those are selling points. We laugh and throw up the non-staff hand in a gesture of, Don't say I didn't warn you. At this point, we arrive at what is, for us, an impasse. Grieve springs lively down from the mount he rides, and goes to help me down. I push him away with the staff and say, I'm not that old, boy. I can dismount myself. Hopping down to the ground without assistance. He cocks an eyebrow and says, Oh, so I guess you don't need me to shout across the river for you either then. I look out across the wide rapids that I know to be too deep for folk to wade, and too fast-flowing to swim. The women guarding the far side look engrossed in conversation, and haven't noticed us. I don't know if I could shout loud enough for them to hear over the sound of the water, but I do know that the attempt would destroy the throat. I say, Please shout across the river for me, Griff. Thought so, he smirks, turning out across the water and inflating his chest to yell, Hey! The 2 women immediately snap their attention to us in a way that is reflexively terrifying. Bring a boat for him, he demands, pointing to me. A few moments pass as 16 eyes appraise us, and the women speak at a volume that can't be perceived. Then, one of them goes to a stack of boats, too small for them, too large for me, and lifts one off the top. Returning to the water edge, the woman places the dinghy down and takes hold of a long, leading silk rope before wading out towards us. I hope it won't be bouncing around like that on the trip back across the river with me weighing it down. That does not look comfortable. Griff hands me a long, thin object wrapped in cloth before wrapping me in a hug and saying, Stay safe, Mech. Don't get eaten. Cocoon's perspective. Sir Mech of Mew, I presume, I say to the, by my standards, minuscule man, standing in the middle of my throne room as I take my seat atop my pedestal, my brute husband at my side. Haokan already has her place on her side of the pedestal. I am majestic, he answers, his language's lack of any terms of possession briefly fooling me into thinking him to be proclaiming that he himself is majestic. It is an honor and a privilege to be invited to this city. Dipping his head in respect. It is a delight and a pleasure that you accepted, I respond truthfully. He's perfect. Though I didn't know his name, he is the very Twigg I was thinking of when I asked for an older male. Wizened, aged, venerable, he looks every bit as if my father had been transformed into a Twigg by a curse. The scar on the left side of his face, passing over a blind milky eye, does mark him out as having been a warrior in his youth, but with the rough-hewn ironwood staff he needs to prop up his kind's unstable-looking bipedal posture, I don't think anyone could perceive him as a threat. His facial hair grows thicker than any Vrakan male, and he dresses more conservatively than any other Twigg I've seen from the south. Your lodgings are prepared for you, Merkubmu, I state. We've stocked them with water and meat, but have yet to receive the first shipment of non-meat foods we've arranged to trade for with your people. That should arrive from the embassy later today. I trust you will survive until then? He smiles and waves his hand. Eating one meal of only meat will be no problem at all for me, Majestic. It's only if I don't eat vegetables for a prolonged period that the healers tell me I will become sick. I frown, confused. The healers had to tell you that? You didn't already know? He raises and lowers his shoulders in nonchalance and answers, Meat is never plentiful enough for my people that a village could live off only it for any protracted period. But surely individuals in a tribe could. This time he frowns. I'm sorry? Why would only some of us be eating all that meat and the rest of us not, Majestic? I lean back, surprised. I realize I had entirely forgotten about the Twig's egalitarianism. I was imagining high-status Twig monopolizing meat supplies, allowing all to see that doing so makes them sick. I recall now that there are no Twig nobles. To them, more meat means more meat for all to share. Apologies, Sir Mek. My lack of familiarity with your people's ways caused me to speak foolishly, I say. In answer, he just does another shoulder raise and says, No problem, Majestic. As I understand, I'm here to make you, the council, and, later, the regent over there, familiar with folk ways. Yes, and we greatly appreciate it. Cuckoo, do you have... Oh, thank you. My brute husband places what I sought into my hand, without my needing to finish the question. Your first moon's salary in advance, no threads attached. You do not have to return it if you decide you need to leave early, I say, standing and crossing the hall to extend the pouch to him. He reaches his free hand out to take it, a confused expression on his face. His fingers close around the top of the bag and I release it. Its weight immediately drags it to the floor, almost pulling the old man down with it. I curse my stupidity. Of course it would be a much higher proportion of his weight than mine, and if he wasn't expecting it... I'm sorry, Semek. I should have warned you it would be heavy. That's fine, Majestic, he answers distractedly, opening up the bag and looking inside, his face still confused. What's this? Your salary. 20 iron coins for this moon. Is it not enough? I ask uncertainly. It is, in my view, a rather generous wage. Was he expecting chests upon chests? I know his people are generally impoverished compared to mine. Maybe he thinks our treasuries are boundless. Sorry, Majestic. What's the salary? He asks, enlightening me as to his confusion. It's payment for the services you'll be rendering, Semek. Payment? Yes, you understand compensation. It's like a trade. You give us your time and your knowledge. We give you this iron. His eyebrows fly up his wrinkled green forehead. Every moon? That's more like the reaction I was hoping for. Yes, every moon. Did they not explain that you will be compensated at the embassy? He frowns. I mean, they might have mentioned something about it, but I think I misunderstood. My understanding was that I would give time and knowledge and, in return, be fed and housed. I smile wearily. I would shame the Quarakan realm and the Empire to be so stingy with you, Sir Mek. Food and lodging are but a part of your compensation. And what do I do with it? I give a dismissive gesture. That's really none of my concern. Hoard it, roll around in it, send it back to your people to melt down, whatever you like. I would advise you to keep at least a little here for yourself, though. Anything you wish to buy in Quaware will need to be purchased with these. So, that's like compensation again, Majestic. Or you want something other than the food you're giving me, or you have to give the person who has it one of these? He asks, gesturing into the bag. Depending on what you want, it might be more or less than one iron coin, but essentially yes. Complicated, he reflects, but I thank you for being generous, Majestic. You are most welcome, Sir Mek, I say, turning to retake my seat on my throne pedestal. I'm almost there when he says, speaking of compensation, Majestic, but that's as far as he gets, because at that moment, something, to me, small and fluffy, charges into the room from outside. My head whips around to see one of my siblings sprinting at the old man. She's already probably nearly twice the weight of. Her arms and palps are extended in glee, but my insides go cold at the thought of returning a mangled corpse to his people, explaining that he was ripped apart, minutes after arriving, by one of my baby half-siblings who only wanted to play. I rear up to bring myself back around and charge for her. The old man is already holding his stick between himself and the baby. Yes, good. She's going to be on you before I'm on her, but if you can just fight her off for a moment, I'll completely forgive you if you hurt her, though I prefer you don't do so too badly. She's too close. He still hasn't swung for her. She's about to kill him when she meets only his stick, which he angles to cause her to glance away, harmlessly to his right, towards me. She shrieks and giggles delightedly at the game, and turns around to charge the old man again. Before she has the chance, I've scooped her from the ground. I stare furiously at the happy, oblivious infant for a moment, before a young male appears in the door, and all my ire immediately refocuses on him. "Cur!" I roar, causing him to flinch. "What is wrong with you?" I thunder to where he stands, and loom down over him. I extend him the baby that I can now tell is female, but visually at least cannot identify beyond that. Is this Vashach again? She is, Your Majesty, he mumbles back, rightfully ashamed. This is, what, the 4th time? 5th, respond my sister and brood husband, coolly and in unison. I take a deep, staging inhale that turns out as much more of a hissing growl than I meant, and make a conscious effort to lower my voice as, through gritted toothplates, I say, Kur, if she is such a flight risk, you need to give her a more experienced attendant. The previous times, this was just embarrassing. This time, it was dangerous. I gesture behind myself to the tiny old man. She could have hurt him, Q. Do you understand how bad that would have been? Yes, Your Majesty, he answers, looking like he's about to cry. Good! Then you'll understand why you're demoted. You want to take her back to the nursery and explain to Bromhead that your apprenticeship has resumed and you are no longer to be trusted solo until further notice. Dismissed! The boy flees from the room, taking Vashach with him. I take several more deep breaths to dispel my anger before turning back to the guest in my realm and saying, Sir Mek, I cannot apologize enough for that. Are you unharmed? He smiles and waves dismissively. No harm done, Majestic. Young ones will play. Would that we could all be so carefree. You have my deepest gratitude for not harming my half-sister, Sir Mek. I would have understood completely if you had. That was an impressive redirection. The old man drums 4 of the 5 claws of his left hand just above his left temple, connoting cunning, and grins. I'm 56, Majestic. A folk does not live to be this age without picking up a few such tricks. Containing my shock that this wizened old man is, in fact, only 16 years older than me, I sigh. I can see we still have much to learn about your people from you, Sir Mek. That is, if you're still willing to teach us. I will understand if you wish to leave now after that experience. The loss of 20 iron coins for no work will smart, but not close to as much as compelling him to remain here against his wishes would hurt Vrek and Twigg relations. He waves his hand. No, we think I'd like to stay, Majestic. We can fend off the odd rogue baby for such generous compensation. I'm relieved to hear it, Sir Mek. Though I truly hope that will be the last occasion on which you'll be ambushed by one of my siblings. I'll have a word with the nursery about tightening anti-escape security when we're done here. Oh, did you have another question about your salary? No, Majestic. I think I understand it now, he answers, confused. Before Vekshap interrupted you, you were saying something else about compensation, I prompt. Oh, right, yes, he remembers. It wasn't about the salary. We have something to give you. Something to give me? I query. Well, maybe not you, and I'm just delivering it, actually, he says, withdrawing a long, thin, rigid, non-silk cloth parcel from his belt, and extending it upwards for me to take. Quizzically, I begin to unwrap it. I gasp, as I see the glossy red metallic texture that emerges from the bundle. A gesture of goodwill was the phrase I believe I am to use, from Representative Vig, as thanks for the aid you gave after the attack on Dith, smiles the old man kindly. What is it, Cacaoan? Asks my sister, from her place on the right of the throne pedestal. It's your foot, Huakun.